Andrews is a small town in South Carolina. Oneita Knitting Mills is the largest business in the town and in the area.
Every morning, just at 5, you gotta get up, dead or alive. It's hard times in the mill.
The long strike at Oneita that affected 1,000 textile workers is finally over, and the people are returning to their jobs. Most strikes are lost if they last more than a few weeks. But for 6 long, hard months, the workers struck Oneita. The strike began when the Oneita Company still refused to sign a contract 14 months after the workers had voted to be represented by the Textile Workers Union of America. At that time, only 10% of the 500,000 textile workers in the South belonged to a union, and the hourly wage was 1/3 less than the national average.
Now ain't it enough to break your heart? You have to work all day, and at night it's dark. It's hard times in the mill, my love, hard times in the mill.
South Carolina has always been an agricultural state. From the time of the American Revolution until the Civil War, the land surrounding Andrews was a great rice-producing region. Then came cotton, then came tobacco plantations. Slaves were brought in from Charleston to work the crops, and finally the soil gave out. When the plantations failed, a huge workforce remained. When the Oneita Mills came to Andrews, most of the people were farm workers. They hired themselves out, some to work tobacco crops, some to pick fruit and vegetables, and sometimes they had to work as domestics. The wages offered by the mills were mighty low, but even this was better than working the fields. And Oneita did not come alone. Hundreds of other mills moved from the north to the cheaper labor pools throughout the South. In recent years, Southern business interests have gone all out to attract Northern industry, using as a lure the South's large supply of low-paid workers. The mill owners say that the workers are not interested in joining unions, but in truth, in recent years, unions have won victory after victory.
Y'all let them stop farming and going to working at these plants. You know, I was raised on a farm, but I was farming for myself and working at the railroad too. I think that caused some of my health. I working the night and plowing the daytime.
Like in the summertime, they have buses rough to get to Myrtle Beach, and that's where most of the women would work. But now the bus is still running, and they carry maybe 300 women from Andrews here every day to Myrtle Beach to work.
Many women still have not taken jobs in the mill. Southern mill workers coming off farms live in a closed society. The mill dominates their town and all of its people. The only choice of work is between the fields and the factory. Andrews still has an agrarian outlook, and many workers have small farms where they raise their own vegetables and their own poultry. The long straight road between the two Oneita plants in Lane and Andrews was once a railway that ran through a small town called Trio. When the railway bed was covered by a paved road, Trio and its small bank became a cluster of half-empty buildings. Trio is the victim of changing times, and so are its people. Only 100 miles from Andrews is the Darlington Mill. In 1958, the workers voted for the union, and the company closed down. 550 workers lost their jobs, and the town lost its main industry. The Supreme Court ruled that Darlington workers should receive back pay. But despite this ruling, even today, threats to close mills are still being made. The Oneita plant at Lane wasn't built when the Darlington mill closed down, and still hadn't been built in 1963, when another union struck the plant in Andrews and lost the strike after 8 long months. During the recent strike, a headquarters was set up across the street. Next to the strike headquarters was a lunch shop where the workers ate and where they talked about their jobs. From her store, Mrs. Plowden could hear the singing and the chanting on the picket line, and she would listen to the discussion and to the arguments between the strikers and the non-strikers. The workers are largely unskilled and have been at the mill only a short time. Thus, most did not have the experience of the 1963 union struggle, and some workers did not understand what a union could mean. While some workers were confused, most knew that they needed a union to represent them in spite of the previous unsuccessful strike.
I was hoping that we could achieve a contract sooner or later under a different logo, because the people felt by the other union that we had that they had walked off and left us. But it was not really the union's fault. The people could pay the union dues whenever they went back to work.
Well, when we were getting started, Phillip Hope came and I knocked on my door. I was on graveyard shift. I was asleep, and he woke me up, and he was trying to find my son next door. And I told him he would be in after 3, that I was his mother. And that impressed him, so I asked him in, and he told me what he wanted to see him for, because he had orders to organize Oneita Knitting Mill. And oh, it made me feel so good. I told him, okay, let's go. So we began that afternoon getting blue card signed. Riding with him, my son, both of them. Jesse Lee was working at Oneita Knitting Mill at the time. And Pete, he was working at Georgetown Steel on a day shift, luckily. And in the afternoon, every day, we would ride from one place to another, in and out homes, getting blue card signed, trying to explain the union to the people. And that's exactly how I got started. And I haven't stopped up until we got in the contract.
One, for seniority, because I think if you don't have seniority in a mill where you work with a lot of different people, that you don't have anything. I think that's one of the main reasons I was out there. It wasn't really because I didn't make enough money, because I made pretty good when you have to work real hard under production, but I made pretty good. But it was mostly seniority and to have a say in what was going on in the mill. Because if you don't have a say, you just don't have anything in a mill.
The main reason I was out on strike was on account of some of the things that we had had they were trying to take away from us. For instance, seniority. Some of the older workers, they want to take seniority away from us. I went out for the purpose of trying to get us a pension plan, something we never had at Oneita.
Instance, we never did have black supervisor there until after we voted in a union. After we voted in union, we got 2 black supervisors.
Well, to begin with, I believe in organized labor. And when we were at work, no seniority, no retirement, you just had no future. And the boss could walk up to you, and if he said he needed you to sweep the floor, you swept the floor, you went home.
That's right, because the people was tired being treated like slaves, and they wasn't able to stand up for their rights. And quite a number of us, well, we would try, but we didn't get nowhere. And it would cause us to fight all the time in the mill. And now they will be able, all of us will be able to stand up with dignity because we have the union behind us.
Because I've been in Oneita for 21 years, and I'm not getting any younger. And sooner or later, I know I'll have to quit work, or I'm too old to work, let's say that, too young to die. And I need a retirement pension plan.
Brought a guy in the name of Tom Ryan. He'd never been in a mill before. Made him top man. Working long, we couldn't ever get a decent wages. One day he called me to the office. Said, I'm going to give you a raise. Said, you's a good worker. I looked at your record. You've been here a long time. Said, I'm going to give you a raise. But said, now don't say nothing about this until I get on the check. Well, I worked along then about 6 more weeks, you know, expecting this raise. So one day, this particular day, I just wasn't feeling too well. And I called him. And I asked him about what he promised me. He said he hadn't heard from New York yet. And he kept him running around there lying to the people because they shipped him out, bring in somebody else. About every 8 to 10 months, they change head supervisor. He comes in there with a pack of new lies, you know what I mean, what I'm going to do for y'all. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And then when his lie run out, flipped it to somebody else. And it's been like that for the last 14 years when I was out.
When the strike began, unions set up headquarters in Andrews, which coordinated all activities. Here all meetings were held. Picket duty was assigned, and union business was taken care of. From the window of the building, the women working in the kitchen preparing meals for the pickets could see the Andrews plant.
Well, we asked to be on the kitchen crew, and then that's the first thing we knew. They asked us to be captains of the crew. Then, of course, our job was to get the other ladies that had asked to be on kitchen duty, but such as ladies, you know, that wasn't able to walk the picket line, like the ones that was pregnant, or maybe some that had, you know, ill, had to, or something like that. They were the ones that helped us in the kitchen mostly.
The union set up a commissary, which each day fed 500 strikers and their families for 6 long months.
When a striker comes in, he comes in over from that door there and he picks up his orders. Let's say an A order. So we give him a can of black-eyed peas, bag of sugar, 2 bars of soap.
Well, there's a list made up each week of the items that are going to be issued, and they are placed in a semicircle around the counter. Each, we had approximately 20 to 22 commissary workers, mostly women, and they each was assigned to 2 or 3 items to be given out as the person would come down the line with a bag or a box. Each commissary worker knew upon seeing a card stating her classification how much of each item was to be issued. The food that was issued in the commissary was more than the average person, family, would buy from the supermarket on any given week. And they made this known to us throughout the process of the commissary.
Then when the orders fill, he leaves through that door.
While most strikers expected to achieve certain benefits from a union contract, many, quite a number, went on strike for personal reasons. They had scores to settle. They felt they had been personally wrong. They had been lied to. And they had also seen their fellow workers treated unjustly.
I was arguing about seniority and retirement, no seniority, and nothing like that. You just was working day by day with it. You know, just like you work the day, well, man can lay you off if he wanted to keep a younger man or just hired, give him a better job.
I guess when we caught up with our work, they would send everybody home instead of, you know, letting the older ones work, which is my same bit again, seniority. They wouldn't let of the older ones stayed, they would send everybody home. And that kind of made me aggravated.
Oh, yes, because in the knitting department, when greasing up the machine, you step up on step ladders. And we had one of the knitter to fall down off the step ladder. She was maybe in her 50s. And they didn't do anything about it. They determined that she didn't fall off the step ladder. In fact, she had witnessed that she did, but it didn't matter. So she's not working anymore.
I was in the seconds department. I had seniority. I was the oldest one in the seconds department. And if some of the other girls, say on a sewing operation, if their job played out, and he liked those sewers, rather than send them home, he would move me somewhere else to do a harder job and send those sewers in to do my job. Well, I was chosen a picket captain. I had a great group. We had a lot of fun out there. We walked that picket line faithful. The scabs, they would drop their heads when they came by. They knew what we were out there for was right. They just didn't have the guts, I guess you would say, to come out there with us.
Well, they give us a couple of song books when we was on picket line. And the songs was in the books, well, we didn't really dig them. So we decided to start songs our own. So we started Contract. And so Flossie, she sings with a choir. And she said, why don't I sing We Shall Overcome? I said, all right with me. I said, you lead it and I'll help. And so we started singing Contract, and we shall not be moved.
We shall know, we shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. Yes, we shall not be moved. Well, the Union is behind us. We shall not be moved. Well, the Union is behind us. We shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water.
6 weeks after the strike began, 700 Oneita workers and their families staged a great march for justice. They did this to emphasize their determination to win the strike. And the marches were supported by many other unions throughout the state of South Carolina.
We shall not be moved. Well, we're fighting for our freedom. We shall not be moved. Oh, we're fighting for our freedom. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree planted by the water. Yes, we...
At the end of the march, a nationwide boycott was announced against Oneita goods. The boycott had the support of organized labor throughout the land.
They really was pulling for this strike in South Carolina. There was leafleting, picketing. We picketed the home office, Oneita home office on 62nd floor in the Empire State Building. We were chased out by the police. Then we went down front and leaflet, and then we picketed J.C. Penney on Thursday.
While demonstrations and picketing continued in South Carolina, the boycott spread across the country. Thus, the nation was given fair warning that Southern textile workers will not be denied the American dream of a decent life.
Nobody ever got tired, and nobody ever grew old. I dreamed that I had died and gone to my reward. A job in heaven's textile plant on the Golden Boulevard, where the mill was made of bark. The machines were made out of gold, and nobody ever got tired, and nobody ever grew old. Now this mill was built in a garden.
Some local people supported the strike. Most, the police, the politicians, and the businessmen, tried to remain neutral.
Well, I would say exactly what I would tell them, but I always ask them if they ever been in the plant. See, it's a lot of them was out here on the street criticizing the workers, and they never looked inside the Oneita Knitting Mill. They don't know what happening down there, you know?
I am sheriff of this county. I am charged to enforce the law and keep the peace in my county. In South Carolina, there are right to work laws. The people that wants to work has a perfect right to work. The people who wanted to continue on working at Oneita Knitting Mills, they went to work without being harmed. The strikers stayed on the gate. They cooperated with me 100%. I had law enforcement officers, deputy sheriffs, sled agents, highway patrolmen at Oneita Knitting Mills at the entire time during the strike.
And it make you feel good to know you stayed out there 6 months, and you went out, when you went out, got what you went out for.
That's one thing that I thoroughly enjoyed while I was out. I didn't know a lot of the women, especially the colored women. And I learned to know them, and I learned to like a lot of them that I really didn't think I could like. But I found out that they're colored people, and that doesn't matter at all. They're just like we are.
People couldn't have produced the goods. And once you ship it out to some of those companies like J.C. Penney, and if they pull out one and the garment they want, it sends the whole shipment back. They got enough to be working on for the next year, reject.
This strike was, the people stayed lots closer together, and they wanted to achieve a contract here. That was their greatest desire, and we did get one. They were some of the most happiest people I believe I ever seen.
A real hard struggle here with these people. This is a fine group of people here, and they got a good contract out of this strike.
I think that this is going to be one of the most meaningful strikes to the Textile Workers Union of America that they've had in a long, long while. Both you and I know this is a notorious anti-union area, and certainly this was a great victory for everyone that's employed at Oneita Knitting Mills, plus the community as a whole.
A strong union. We are building a strong union. Workers in the mill. Every member makes us strong.
Finally, after 10 years, a union returned to Oneita. For 6 months, the union stood with the Oneita workers to gain a contract. When the strike was finally won, 700 Oneita workers and their families knew full well that they had taken a step toward the decent life. What many of them did not know was that they had also taken a giant step for the 500,000 unorganized Southern textile workers.
That you have a settled union contract with your approval, that the company has agreed that all striking workers will return to their jobs, and that we have won the strike. But I'll tell you, in my analysis, what the crucial factor was that brought this victory about. And I think what that crucial factor was that this company couldn't find any other people around these parts who were as good producers as you people are. And they're hurting bad, and they'd like you to come back, please. The proposal has been unanimously accepted, and we got our contract.
But now we feel great because the majority of us was ladies. And we really held out, and we tried to do everything we could to win, and we did.